In 2023, there's really no reason to be bad in offense in college football. Everybody knows that the most important position in the sport is quarterback, and everybody knows that the most important thing you can do in recruiting is find a good quarterback. If you look at the teams that hire new head coaches and then are immediately successful, it's because they're really good at that position. Whether it is through recruiting and development, whether it's from the transfer portal, whether it's a holdover from the last guy and they just are doing something different, you're really good at the quarterback position. The schools that hire a new coach and then that guy struggles, and the questions become whether that they are the right guy for the future or not, are the schools that struggle at the quarterback position. And in 2023, there's no reason to struggle at the quarterback position, especially with the prevalence of the transfer portal and the guys who are entering the transfer portal. Even over the course of the last, 2 days, the players that have hit the transfer portal at that position, you can get dramatically better. If you're a school in the Power 5, in the lower Power 5, or in the top of the group of 5, and you don't think that you are solid at that position, which is fair and understandable, completely fair and understandable. How do you not look at the guys in the transfer portal? There are some good quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Now, I'm not saying that there are Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks in the transfer portal or going to lead you to a national championship because they got a change of scenery and you needed an upgrade type of quarterback. But there are guys that can be really productive players in the transfer portal at Power 5 schools, at the best G5 schools. And I don't think it's really up for debate. KJ Jefferson at Arkansas has been a really productive college football player. And for the majority of his time with the Razorbacks, the offense has been kind of centered strictly around him and what he can do, but obviously thinks that it's time to move on somewhere else. I hesitate to use this comparison because I don't think he can put a team on his back and lead him to a national championship, but he can have a Cam Newton type season where as a runner and a thrower, he could be really productive. He could be a top 5 quarterback in a conference, depending on where he transfers. He has that ability. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami, Tyler Shuck at Texas Tech, Max Johnson at Texas A&M. These are guys that can step into a program and create some stability at the most important position. You can't be elite in college football and stink at the quarterback spot. If you look at the top 8 teams in America right now, who has the worst quarterback in that group? Ask yourself that question. If you look at the latest college football playoff rankings that came out last night that we'll get to in just a second, if you were to say, hey, who are the teams that have just downright bad quarterback play? They don't exist. Like, it is not you can't be both elite. Okay, I guess outside of Florida State. Florida State's a little bit different animal because Jordan Travis got injured, right? But Georgia has perfectly fine and adequate quarterback play. Michigan, very good. Washington, Heisman Trophy level. Oregon, Heisman Trophy level. Ohio State, Kyle McCord gets a lot of flack from Ohio State fans, but that's because they watched their last 3 quarterbacks be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. 2 of them in the top, or I guess all 3 of them in the top 15 picks. Kyle McCord's not that, but he ain't as bad as everybody in Buckeye Nation would like you to believe. Quinn Ewers is one of the highest rated quarterback recruits ever and has played really well at Texas. Jalen Milroe, I give him a lot of credit because I've sat here on this podcast in September and wrote Alabama off for dead because they were not good at that position. And here they sit, despite being number 8 in the country, with a chance to make the college football playoff because Jalen Milroe has really turned things around and has really improved over the course of the season. And I haven't given him enough credit because I sat here in September after their loss to Texas and after he didn't start against South Florida, and basically said Bama doesn't have a chance in 2023 because they are bad at the most important position. And here we sit going into the weekend where they could make the college football playoff simply from winning a game that a lot of people think they can and should win because he's played really, really well. So you look at those 8 teams, and I don't know how, if you look at the top 14 teams, maybe Louisville is where you go, okay, Louisville doesn't have great starting quarterback play. But you know what? Louisville's number 14, and I think that's because they haven't played all that difficult of a schedule. But you got to get to 14, maybe 9 in Missouri. But you got to get to number 14 in America of who you go, like, okay, they don't have great quarterback play. And then, you know, Arizona's got a good quarterback play. Iowa's number 16. They don't. Notre Dame, number 17. They do. But when you've got to get to number 15, number 16 to really be like, okay, their quarterback play is not good, it highlights how important that position is. So when a guy like, if Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina, who in virtually any other year is preparing for the NFL draft at this point, rather than entering the transfer portal and looking for one final college football season, it's a benefit to programs that need good quarterback play. But Grayson McCall, Will Howard, KJ Jefferson, Will Howard from Kansas State, KJ Jefferson's from Arkansas, Tyler Van Dyke from Miami, Will Rogers from Mississippi State, Max Johnson from A&M, Tyler Shuck from Texas Tech. These are guys that can step into programs that maybe are on the fringe of the top 25 in 2023 and put them in the top 25 in 2024, or maybe a team that's on the fringe of making a 12-team college football playoff next year. KJ Jefferson can put you into being in the 12-team college football playoff. I just think there's no excuse for being bad at the most important position when everybody in the sport knows that it's the most important position. And if you have to stockpile talent and eventually that talent leaves via the transfer portal, oh, well, it happened. Excuse me. At least it happened. Having more than enough talent is not a bad thing. The idea that and I think college coaches have been slow to adapt to this, that the idea of I don't want to have a boatload of talent in that room because I'll have to manage it. Having to manage a lot of talent rather than having no talent at that spot is a hell of a lot better of a proposition than walking around hoping you get to November and that somebody really good hits the transfer portal so you can be better at it the next year. Because guys have the opportunity and the ability to move from school to school to school and program to program and program. And coaches can bitch and complain about that all they'd like, but they can be the ones who benefit from it. All you have to do is embrace it and accept it. Now, does it suck to the guys that you have recruited and brought into your program and spent the time developing and telling them that, hey, if you bide your time, this is all going to be yours someday? Yeah, it does suck. But kids aren't stupid. They understand, everybody except for the coaches and ADs understand that this is a business. College players aren't dumb. They're showing up to their program that they chose out of high school with the idea that I'm probably not going to spend all 4 years, especially at the quarterback position, all 4 or 5 years of my college eligibility at this one school. Things are going to change. The coaches are going to change. Your situation is going to change, and that's fine. They're flexible. They're pliable about the entire situation. It's the coaches who are so strict and rigid in their ways that the idea of bringing somebody in, and this kind of flies against conventional wisdom for, the past 40 years where, it was basically you were a failure if you brought in a transfer quarterback. Well, now it's almost you're a failure if you're not at least scouring that portal going okay, can I get better at this position? And that's really the question that matters the most. And the question I think you have to ask is, Can I get better at this spot? You have a duty to your team, your program, your university, your assistant coaches, your athletic director to be as good as you can be at every position, right? At the end of the day, that's the question you have to ask. And you wouldn't be afraid to ask that about guys who are already on your roster. Every day in practice and every drill, everything you do, you're evaluating whether you are on the right path. And then when it comes to the transfer portal, it's like, oh, well, we're not going to look there. Why wouldn't you look there? Why wouldn't that be a place that you can improve, you can get better and do the things that you need to do? I just have no idea why that is such a taboo subject for so many guys, when you can then look around the country and see like the three likely Heisman Trophy quarterback finalists, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr., have all transferred. All three of them are going to conceivably be in New York in a few weeks, and all three of them started their college football careers somewhere else. And that's okay. Now, the argument from some people is like, well, Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix are old as hell compared to other college football players. And while that might be true, they are also not doing anything out of the realm of possibility or anything that's not allowable. They're just playing by the rules that were given to them. And they're playing at a really high level. And it's okay that they started their career one place and transferred somewhere else. Like, that's just a byproduct of how the NCAA is set up these days. And so many guys are so terrified to displace and dispatch somebody that they've put some time and effort into to simply get better at the position. And I get that it goes kind of like it's the exact opposite of the message that they want to preach to their kids, right? Of, college football coaches are some of the first guys that'll tell you about today's instant gratification, kids. Yeah, I get it. But you know what? Instant gratification bleeping rocks, especially when it comes to college football. When you can immediately get better, you should get better. And does that stink? And does that send a bad message to, that's the exact opposite of what you're trying to preach to kids, that hard work matters and all the other stuff that you're trying to impress upon your kids? Yeah. But you know what matters? Winning. Winning, winning, and winning. For the most part, nobody cares how you win, just that you win. Now, the downside of that is once you are no longer winning, Dabo Swinney, people start to question how you won, and why you are no longer winning. But as long as you are winning, everything else falls to the wayside. So when you prioritize the things that you have to prioritize, i.e. winning, it becomes a really easy decision to raid the transfer portal and stockpile and not be afraid to stockpile talent, because the likelihood is if you have three really good quarterbacks, it's a hell of a lot better than having no really good quarterbacks. And two of those guys transferring, even if they stay in your conference. Okay, all right, whatever. It sure beats the alternative, doesn't it? And so often I think some programs lose sight of that and go into a season being like, oh gosh, you know what? We talked about it earlier this season. Now, maybe I've been proven wrong, but Alabama came into this season with legitimate question marks at quarterback that they didn't. I don't think anybody thought Jalen Milroe was going to play as well as he has here down the stretch. Obviously, they didn't think that after the first couple of games because he didn't play that well. But there's no reason to go into a season in 2023, 2024, or going forward and have quarterback questions, because there are options out there. All you have to do is take them. Now, you go to last night's college football playoff rankings. I don't have a whole lot of issues with them. If you look, Georgia's 1, Michigan's 2, Washington 3, Florida State 4, Oregon 5, Ohio State 6, Texas 7, Alabama 8. I think it's kind of the kind of the easiest way to rank them, because I'm here to tell you, can Alabama jump from number 8 to number 4 with a win? Yeah. Yeah, they can. Texas is sitting on the fringe, basically waiting for a Louisville loss. If Louisville loses, or I beg your pardon, if Florida State loses, I think Texas is in. I think the winner of Oregon-Washington is in. So I think it sets up nicely that, like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? These are the teams that are in. Number 3 spot is going to play itself out. The winner of Washington and Oregon is in the college football playoff. That's easy. So you put Oregon at 5, saying basically like, hey, we believe that you are the best one-loss team in America. But if you lose, Ohio State, Texas, and Alabama are going to jump you, and that's okay. If Alabama wins, they're going to catapult all of you. There are still legitimate questions and chaos scenarios and all of that stuff. But when you look at the way 1 through 8 are set up right now, I think it makes a lot of sense that Ohio State is obviously viewed as the second best one-loss team, and their one loss is to the number 2 team in the country on the road. They're not going to really ding Ohio State for that. Alabama's one loss is to number 7 at home weeks ago, months ago at this point. They're not really going to hold that against you, but when there's 4 undefeated teams right now, they're going to be 1 through 4, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8 still all have a path to making the college football playoff. It's just some includes some, some hilarity, some chaos, some unexpected victories and losses, but it sets up nicely the way they set up 1 through 8. And so I don't have any qualms with how it's set up. There are those that are like, Ohio State's number 6. Well, if Ohio State was to play Texas at a neutral field, and I don't like using, Vegas, but is Ohio State favored over Texas? Probably, or it's a pretty close game. Alabama, same thing. And against Washington and Florida State, probably the same thing, but the committee says we're ranking the 4 best teams. I don't think they are, because I don't think anybody in that room thinks that Florida State is one of the 4 best teams, but they have one of the 4 best resumes right now, and they have one of the 4 best records. And so you can't go against that, because you still got to hearken to the regular season matters. And if the regular season matters, 13-0 has to matter too. But I have no problems with the way 1 through 8 are constructed right now, because there are still paths for 1 through 8 to make a college football playoff. And I think that there's a clear delineated line of like, hey, here's how everybody gets in. It just is, there's one scenario where on Sunday, everybody in the committee has egg on their face because Texas ain't in. And I don't think that's popular or fun but it will be interesting. I'll tell you that right now. But we'll wait and see how that all plays out, and we'll talk about it here on Sunday on the Daily Huddle. That'll do it for today's episode. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. We certainly, really do, truly, honestly appreciate it. We'll be back at it tomorrow, previewing Conference Championship Saturday, winners and losers, and we'll do it tomorrow here on the Daily Huddle. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out here at Saturday Glory. If you are listening to the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Daily Huddle with Saturday Glory.